She is a seasoned leader. She is a specialist and a guru in corporate communication, a business development expert, and a marketing expert. What else can I say? Her name is Rina, and in this very global and, shall I say, globalized context where we are operating in the GCC, we are going to talk about effective communication for leadership positions. I'm bringing you the one and only Rena Itani. Hang in there. Let's see what she is going to help us with. And hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Quantum Leadership Hacks. I'm your host, Dr. Nabila Diep. Today, we are joined by the one and only Rina Itani, a renowned communication specialist. We'll be discussing an increasingly relevant topic: effective communication in the GCC in such a globalized and multicultural context. Welcome, Rina, with specific focus on the workplace. Welcome, Rina. Come on the call and say hi to our friends over here. How are you, Rina?
Good evening, Dr. Nabila. Good evening to everyone who's watching us, to our friends, your guests, and I look forward to an interactive session talking a little bit about multicultural workplace and the different communication and leadership styles that we can adopt while working in the GCC and this very dynamic, region. And with the rise of the economic development and focus on the region, we see a lot of moving variables, people meeting each other for the first time. So there is a lot of focus on corporate communication and communication in general that will help people collaborate and create a positive working environment to achieve the goals that they are set to do in this region. So I look forward to this engaging session.
Absolutely. Rina, I don't know where to start. I prepared a ton of questions, as you know, because we want to make good use of your expertise. And you can see I'm already so excited about it. Listen, you can never get enough of Rina. You can never get enough. Tell me,
Thank
you are talking about a dynamic GCC environment, and I know, this is as far as I can remember. You've been in the GCC, and in particular in Dubai, the melting pot, the Vent d'Est, Vent d'Ouest of all cultures and all. It's like I always tell them, Dubai is like the New York. It's the melting pot of all cultures and all. But tell me, you said it's very dynamic, it's very agile, and it's changing. If you had to pick one thing that makes the GCC region like so different from anywhere else, what is the striking feature that kind of marked your experience in living in the GCC? Like
Uh,
something.
I would I would say the agility. I have been around. I traveled a lot. European and American countries, or let's say North American, would be more lean towards standardizing things and taking things in a much slower pace. Because of the bureaucracy, what I realized here, I've been in Dubai for 12 years, and I've done a lot of, projects from scratch, and having the luxury and the privilege to do this was also supported by the government initiatives, and having young and dynamic governments here supports you in doing things in an agile way. So agility and adaptability are the two key important factors that made this region very dynamic, and it will continue on an exponential growth in comparison to other regions and countries. We are all aware that every country, they have their investment plans and 5 years plans ahead, what they want to achieve on different levels. However, what I realized here, especially now, focusing on the UAE and the Saudi market, the growth that they are planning for the 2030, visions for both countries makes you excited, and you feel humbled and privileged to be in this region at this time, where you can actually also contribute to the growth and to gain a lot of experience in such a short period of time in comparison to being elsewhere.
I love it. I love it. Good evening, VM. Good evening, Omama. Good evening, Zahra. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Do not hesitate to ask Rina questions while she's here. We are talking about effective communication and leadership in the GCC. Like in paving the way for getting into the meaty part of the discussion, we are already way in the trenches of the discussion. Can you, like, what would you say is like the most prominent, or the one or the most prominent challenges uh, uh, involved in when operating in a multicultural workplace? Like, in other words, like, let's suppose somebody is coming for the first time. Let's say you've just arrived in Dubai and you just landed, but you did not have the communication knowledge and background and everything. Let's say somebody coming from the far east Asia or from another Arab country, and they've been doing something where it's really a monocultural context. What is the first thing? What would be the first challenge, or the first few challenges they would have to be aware of so as to operate correctly in a context? Like one or two.
This is something very important, and I personally had the chance to work on it. And I do focus a lot on, from a communication perspective, to work with the human resource department. When we bring on new talents to new countries, we call it part of an onboarding phase. And the onboarding happens when HR works with the communication department to create some what we call onboarding material or internal communication material for people to get to know where they are coming for, and what they are the expectations. I want to focus on one thing
Mm,
before dwelling into the barriers. It's very important for us to identify or differentiate between the different types of organizations. Even if we're gonna call it, multicultural organization, we need to understand the size of it, the leadership, the vision behind it, whether it's a local group, having different regional offices, or if it's a global powerhouse with a regional representation here, or if it's just a startup where they are, having a lot of people coming from different backgrounds. So the size and the type of organization is very important. So we can actually try and, onboard these people into it. And when we say multicultural, I will go back to the main focus of any organization, which I always repeat, and it's a favorite topic to me: culture, culture, culture. And the
mm,
culture itself uh, of that organization will be reflected with how they're gonna solve the barriers, whether it's a communication barrier in the company, whether it's the communication style. um, in certain areas you have favoritism, where they say you have to respect the hierarchy. In other,
mm,
startup companies, they would say our communication style is more like an egalitarian. So the
mm,
language, the even the leadership will be, open to having this open communication, open door style. So every organization will create a different type of culture, and the person who is joining that company needs to first understand where they are going to be joining, and how they can maneuver these things. So I'll go back to the barriers now so people would understand what are the types. We have, as we said, the communication barrier. It might be a language, it might be a communication style. You know, some companies that like open communication, active listening, and this is where a lot of people now are moving away from, you know, the reserved kind of things where they are empowering people, pushing people to express themselves, versus, you know, the non-confrontational type, the reserved type. So we have both, but we need to understand the company how they want to position themselves according to these, you know, nuances between both. So we have these direct versus indirect communication, whether we promote active listening or not in the company, you know, whether we need to respect the hierarchy or not, whether we are in favor of short and to the point, concise communication versus lengthy and detailed and supported by a lot of background information before we step into, you know, our work together. So these are some of the differences. Whether we promote a lot of, you know, emotional expression in a company versus no, we prefer to have a more composed, more factual type of communication. Other barriers we might face is, and this is something that even the UAE at the moment, they have just established a law regarding inclusion and diversity. You
Mm-hmm.
might have lack of inclusivity. You might have stereotyping and bias. A lot of, you know, uh, nationalities, they get together as a group because they come from the same either region or town or country. So other people feel like uh, they are not part of that group. So we need to
Mm.
understand the cultural stereotypes, the biases that comes with that, even the style of work. So a lot of people, they focus a lot on, as the moment we're pushing for the agenda of work-life balance and mental health. Others know,
Mm.
they might tell you, I come from a culture where if you are successful, you have to work very hard and you have to be very serious. So we need to respect these type of work habits. Same thing for the, you know, cultural values, decision making styles. What else? We have other barriers as well. Um, some people, for example, they feel like uh, the leadership style that they were used to in other countries, and they come here where also we are promoting for more, you know, inclusive leadership, leadership where you lead by example, you feel inspired by a leader, where the leader can be adaptable in understanding the different cultural nuances and try to be a mediator uh, in the middle of, you know, those team members with different languages. So also leadership style and management can be also a barrier where people need to understand who is the CEO, who is the C-suite, how we can work together. And there's a term that I like, which is called cultural intelligence. We're familiar with the emotional intelligence, but we can
Correct.
add to it a new term, which is called the cultural intelligence, where you have the ability to adapt to different communication and leadership styles based on the different cultural context. And you can see that a lot with, international figures,
Mm.
especially in politics, where they have to, a big country, different regions, different type of population, where they have to go and visit those different regions and try to feel the closer to that region, uh, which is different, but it's part of a bigger nation. So,
Right. Rina,
international people, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You kind of provoked me into chipping into this. This is so, so good. Listen, give me or give us. My audience today is a little bit shy, so please keep asking questions. Let's give some an example of, for example, for sure you've experienced leaders who practice active listening and leaders who are probably more, I would say, top down approach, where the expectation is yes sir, and it's yes on on every front. Of course, it's going to trigger different reactions on the part of the people. And we notice this a lot, especially when you have people from the West, Westerners like, Americans, Canadians, and so where it's very more or less like kind of horizontal kind of communication, and they move into a very let's say top down type of communication. what kind of um, what kind of problems that it can create? And here I'm taking you like in my stride towards the language differences, because we know culture is embedded in language. We studied this I studied this in sociolinguistics, and we know language cannot exist on its own. Language, it has perforce or de facto culture in it. It's embedded in it. So language differences can be a significant barrier in multicultural environments. So like, especially if we have people from different places, I could be saying, maybe somebody asks me something, and I feel okay saying I'll look at it later, and the expectation is, no, yes sir, I'll do it immediately, and I'll stay up until the middle of the night to do the report and answer the phone calls. Remember these, yeah, and
Of
so on and so
course.
forth. Tell us, give us some specific juicy examples of how this plays out, in terms of I'm not sure if I made myself clear. I think I took you in a maze with my question.
Okay, we have language barriers and how we can solve them as a general, topic. But if we want to go back a little bit to the leaders, the types of leaders and how they communicate, there is currently a new, I wouldn't say trend, but there's a position that's becoming more important lately, which is called the chief of staff. The chief of staff is the person who will be working very closely with the CEO to become the bridge of communication between him and the other leaders. In
Mm,
case there is any kind of conflict, any kind, of
mm,
communication, he will be the person, the gatekeeper, who will translate whatever is requested or required from both levels. So
mm,
this is on, the leadership level. It's important to have these people. Now, depending on if we want to take general guidelines on, you might have, a different CEO every few years, but to try and not to shake the rest of the organization of this change, you can always have clear guidelines on a new person coming in, where you teach him, uh, this is the organization, this is the type of people, the percentage of nationality, this is
mm,
what type of resources we have, whether multilingual libraries, whether we have work policies,
mm,
laws we can follow. So this person can join, and he can also, back to adaptability, adapt himself to learn more about these nuances. And there is also the verbal and the non-verbal. So from a verbal perspective, using a common language, simple language. For example, in regional conferences, you have translation services where you can have real-time translation to avoid any misunderstanding. And what we do also in internal communication is to create always feedback loops, which is surveys, trying
mm,
to make sure all our channels, the communication channel, whether it's an intranet or an email, or engaging with the leadership on a monthly basis, or every couple of months. It depends on the company's strategy. So we try using these employee engagement activities to understand if the employees are engaged, they understand why they are here, what they're doing, and their relationship with leadership will be reflective of the success of the company. So it's a
Right.
two-way street, two-way communication. Um, the leadership has some work to do as a homework. The same goes to the organization as being a part of the working staff there, to also give us the real feedback in order to tweak our strategies according to what they feel needed. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. You know, when you gave the example of the chief of staff as a liaison person between the CEO and the other directors, so as there's no, I was thinking because you reminded me of this is an example. I think I know this example really well, and it's again a CEO who had to hire an empathy consultant. An empathy consultant, because his style of communication is so direct, it scares off, and it comes across, even though the guy probably inside, he's like he has, emotional intelligence and he feels for his people, but somehow he comes across as really, brush and, and bold in the decisions and too direct and so on. So much so that he has to hire an empathy consultant. And this brings me to the point of empathy, because this word, is becoming like a buzzword. And so as we run into like watering down this, and there's empathy here, empathy there. But we know for a fact, like in the World Economic Forum, for example, the top 10 skills in its last report, the top 10 skills needed for the next 10 to 15 years. There are words like adaptability, you mentioned, empathy, there is collaboration, meaning working together even though we are not the same. Then we need to be able to, kind of reach a middle ground, communicate, collaborate, teamwork. And Interestingly enough, I was with somebody, I was helping somebody in her, interview and so on. And she said, I had 5 times the same questions. They circle back with the scenario about, suppose you have a problem in your da da da. Will you be friendly or will you be serious? And they were insisting that they were kind of quizzing her on her empathy quotient, may I say, where we talk about intelligent it's emotional intelligence, is how friendly and how empathetic. Where do we draw the line, yeah, Rina? Tell, like, for the sake of communication purposes, especially for leadership position, um, I do believe, and this is from a personal experience, having been for the past 15 years in a leadership position in the DCC, that when you're a leader, there are certain places where you have to put a foot in there and make a decision and ask the team to move along. Of course, there is work beforehand to make it palatable, like the decision to everyone and so on. But there is a point where if you feel like you exhausted all resources and you need to move on with the decision, you need to have that boldness, that capacity to move on with the decision. So it's empathy, humaneness, so to speak, and at the same time have that capacity to enforce decisions, because if you try to please everyone, you are not going anywhere. Where do you draw the line? I mean, have you seen this, like, in real life in your own context?
I have experienced this firsthand with a lot of leaders where they had the classic, a style of leadership where they just look at facts and figures and make decisions based on what the CFO would actually, advise. Suddenly the shift is now towards more listening to other people, to make it more inclusive, and make a decision based on the overall wellness of an organization. Now, where do we draw the line? It's still very important. And my favorite type of leadership would be a situational leadership. What does it
Mm,
mean? It means you have different hats of leadership based on the situation that you're in. And this is where, the fluidity, the adaptability is required. It doesn't mean that you don't have a style. It means that you use, uh, whether for now I need to be focusing on numbers, I'll make a decision based on that. Whether I need to be empathetic in such a situation, I will be empathetic. So now, even leaders with very high positions, they are going into personal retreats, developmental coaching, where and part this is part of empathy, where you actually look into yourself and realize, like, I have been doing this for the past 15 years, the same old me,
mm,
making decisions. This is my comfort zone. I need to learn new skills and new
mm,
leadership styles in order to become that, you know a global CEO, where I can actually have that cultural awareness, where I can actually be of service of the organization overall. Yes, and to please, the stakeholders, and to make sure I meet the numbers, but at the same time not to forsake, the reputation of the company, or my relationship with my peers or with the subordinates. So now, leaders are leaning more towards putting work on themselves as leaders, uh, developing themselves further, and testing what works based on, their current career situation, where they want to take, the organization that they are part of. Because if you want to develop further and progress within your role and the organization, you also need to be agile. So I wouldn't say I would draw any line. I would say it's part of a growth opportunity for leaders to test themselves and to see what works based on the situation they are at the moment.
I love it. I love it. It's never like it's not constant agility. It's becoming a requirement for everyone. Change is inevitable. Personal development is a choice, and growth is a choice, as my mentor Bob Proctor would always say. It's inevitable. I mean, we saw during COVID the people who said, "No, I'm good here. I'm not very much in favor for technology." And here comes COVID, and it pushed everybody over the edge, pushing everyone to embrace technology, to stay at home. And that was the lesson to be learned. For me, it was, hey, you need to learn this for you to be able to move to the next thing. I always give that example. So change, I mean, there's no such a thing, oh, this is my leadership style and I'm here to stay. Because if everything is moving and shifting and changing and moving around, I mean, we don't have a choice but to also upgrade, update our leadership style as well. How about, Yarina, conflict resolution? And in a multicultural setting, and I've been through that multiple times, where sometimes a simple gesture or somebody talking with their hands now is coming across as offensive for somebody else. And she did say this to me while doing this with her hands, and that becomes a big thing. So conflict resolution, and I'm combining conflict resolution, especially when it comes, as a result of not understanding certain non-linguistic, I would say, or non-language cues or gestures or body language, or other than language, because we discussed the language. What do you think? What skills and approaches do you recommend for effectively managing and resolving conflicts in such environments?
I will divide the conflict resolution part into two things. One is the
Mhm.
nonverbal, I'm going to talk about it, and the other one is more related to change management. And
Okay.
from a corporate communication perspective, change management is an important activity that we do a lot, especially when it comes to to investment activities where there are restructuring of companies or acquisition, people losing their jobs, etc. So there comes a point where leaders are sitting on a table and they want to make decisions, harsh decisions, and conflicts arise. So it's very important for us to understand the function of each person, where they're coming from, is it the best interest of the company or not. And there are techniques, there are mediations, to try and reach either a common ground, or someone will make the biggest decision because it is the best for the company. So either you come into competing, like, I'm right, no, you are right, so it's a there's no win here at all, or we reach a collaboration where both of us are winning, or we are compromising. One of us is saying, okay, for the sake of the bigger organization. Some people, back to the leadership style, they avoid taking decision because they don't like accountability, so they stay away and they avoid making those decisions, and they allow others. They stay on the passive seat, but they don't engage in making that decision. They say their opinion without any weight. Or there's a type of the people who would accommodate. That we see a lot of people who are pleasers as well on those tables, uh, when it comes to to taking a final decision. This is from a conflict resolution, and it's just the type of conflict, and what type of results we can reach. I'll come back to that, but I want to shift a little bit to the nonverbal, because with nonverbal, and this is where it's very important to have with HR, my favorite department, we work together to understand the type of people we're hiring, the nuances of the differences in these things, and we create activities and engagement activities, or even sessions where we teach them about whether body language, the type of gestures, uh, the interpersonal space, what does it mean. There's a lot of cultural sensitivities here. When people they come to the region, they need to understand what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, how to respect others, how to speak to others, whether we're talking about work by email, or even when we are sitting in a meeting and collaborating face to face, or even online. So a lot of of these things are properly managed by human resources,
Mm.
creating guidelines on. And they are very powerful, by the way. I've tested them myself. Even a lot of people, you would be surprised, they come to you as a communication expert and they tell you, I have received this email. How do you think I should reply to this email? Although
Mm.
it's not my function, specialized function, but I
Mm.
can guide that person on how to reply based on the person's position, what they are asking for. And I teach them about either tonality, business language, being neutral. So people, they would love to know these things. Um, when they don't understand yet the culture of the company and they don't want to make any mistakes. The same goes when you are in a meeting room and people either looking at you. Some people, they think staring would be a powerful, eye contact would be very powerful. I'm confident I'm going to look her in the eye.
Mm.
Others would say it's intimidating. So you need to have this emotional intelligence, read the room, read the people, what is the topic. uh, if you are sitting taking a lunch break, maybe sitting next to your colleague, sharing a meal would be appropriate. But if you are working together, staying too close would be taking my space will be something that is not appropriate. So these type of information usually are always uh, you know prepared ahead of time, part of an onboarding exercise, teaching people about it, and even creating coaching sessions. And this is why I like when we have a learning and development department in a company, where they ask people what do they want to know. And you would be surprised that body language as a topic, it's still relevant till today, and people would love to know more about these things, because we are, as also humans, we are emotional creatures, and we are interested in psychology. So we like to understand, even when we are presenting to our boss and him listening and nodding, we would love to understand if he's satisfied with what we're saying, even without him saying a word. So also silence can be interpreted in different ways. Some people would say, he agrees with me, he is silent. But silence can also be reflective. I'm sitting and just thinking whether this is right or wrong. So these type of things are also interesting to know about. And the only way to actually resolve these type of conflict is to learn about it,
Yeah,
okay, and ask
I love it.
questions.
Mm, I love it. I think an element probably. I feel like I have to put this in here, which is like an element of curiosity. So if we kind of tackle anything, the issue or the conflict, and I learned this throughout the years. It wasn't something specifically I was trained in, but throughout the years, I learned how to kind of sit back and be curious. Just be curious when these two people who are having this conflict or this discussion, they are talking, and I used to kind of sit back and be curious about how this is going to play out, putting myself in the shoes of this. And so just being open and curious to know, maybe there is something in there that I don't know. Maybe it's not jumping to a judgment or a conclusion or an interpretation, because especially in this multicultural, if you like, workspace, we need that capacity to be even more open to accept different interpretations, or maybe a different meaning attached to something. And in the specific this in the same line, or in the same vein, I'm putting Mama's comment here, where she's saying having awareness of cultural differences and admitting these differences. In admitting, I see in accepting, in I accept you and you accept me. I may not be your favorite blonde, and you may not be my favorite.
And this is
But
why,
go ahead, take
sorry,
it.
doctor, to interrupt you. This
Sure.
is why it's very important. And this, I go back to my first point, which is culture, culture, culture. Uh, some people, when they are screened to join an organization, when we say he is not a cultural fit, it's not about his technical skills, it's not about his personality, there is nothing personal here. The cultural fit comes here with the skills that he needs to maneuver this place. If he's not, if he doesn't have the curiosity, as you mentioned, if he doesn't have the learning abilities or the willingness to learn, because we all are interested to learn something in this space by itself, he will not be a cultural fit. So cultural openness is required. As
Yeah.
we mentioned, empathy, curiosity, willing to learn. These are all the skills that you need in a multicultural place. And I call it the thirst of having a global perspective. Having a
Mm,
global perspective is very enriching. So when you said, I sit and look at those people talking and trying to have in my head a role play, like interacting with them or being one of them, this is also part of you having that, I'm gonna put myself in that place because I have that wider perspective. Yes, I know
mm,
enough, but I want to know more. Learning and knowing more is to look beyond what you are. And to do that, you have the
mm,
opportunity to learn in a multicultural environment. Even if you are sitting and saying nothing, and
Mm.
just by observing others, and you will learn from them talking, even if they are in
True.
conflict or if they are together from the same culture and the same nationality, you will learn something new. And this is why we do a lot of cultural events where, or we celebrate international uh, uh, countries, national countries. We do that because we learn from these things, and this will make us get closer together as employees, and we can collaborate better. So when I
Yeah.
join a company at month one, I'm not the same person when I join at after 6 months. You can ask me different questions, and I'll tell you I have learned and I grow, and I know more about my peers.
I love it, love it, love it, love it. We were a little bit unfair because we talked about skills, empathy, adaptability, agility, curiosity, collaboration, teamwork. These are all skills. It's the skill set repertoire. Where does the role of mindset, Yarina, and the spiritual leader in you to navigate this effective communication and this navigation of a leadership role? Where does the role of mindset, where does it come in? Mindset, as in like understanding myself, understanding what I want, understanding how I can direct my mind, understanding that I am more than what I see. This, we are delving into the spiritual side of leadership, into the dimensions of me that's more than my name and my title and my physicality. We are delving into our mental capacities. We are delving into our, my who am I, the spiritual side. Where does it, how do you put all of this together, Yarina? Help us wrap up with this question, the role of mindset in effective leadership and effective communication.
This is a great question to wrap up the session with. And what I like about mindset is that everyone has one, and there is everything for everyone depending on their mindset. You can pick and choose. You have a limited belief, you can do nothing. You have a company where you can join that company and you can stay small and humble. You have a bigger mindset where you want to grow, you want to learn, you want to collaborate. There is also a company for you where you can join in and learn about these things. And the beauty about mindset that it can also change, it can also
Mm,
evolve. And this is where the pick and choose, depending on where your mindset is professionally, you
mm,
can receive and interact and get what you want based on that. You want to grow with your mindset, have a positive mindset, an open mindset. There are also companies, and this is the type of region we're in. We're in that exponential growth. We are in an agile place. And for you to evolve from a certain mindset and join the bigger league, this is the place to be. Uh,
right.
Definitely contribution, leadership, collaboration, diversity, inclusivity, uh, cultural openness. They are the most, okay, they might sound a lot of fluffy words to people who are more into the numbers and just the final, I would say, outcome. But to
Mhm.
get to there, you need to go into the journey of that mindset to reach the final outcome. And it comes with people, with yourself, with others, to face up those challenges, those ups and downs, those different languages, the difference in thinking, different in culture, in communicating, in expressing yourself, and in finding ways to collaborate together, finding that common ground,
Mm,
to try and resolve those conflicts with the intention of solving these issues, and to
right.
learn from the hurdles, and to learn from not just learning on how to do things, but also to have the problem solving abilities. I want to learn how to solve problems and to overcome them in order to become, a better person, and someone who will be, I always loved it since 12 years ago when I was with one of the local groups here. It was our motto: lead by example. So once you have this overall experience, you can actually say, I have done that before, you can do it, and see me how I'm doing it, so you can get inspired, so you can do the same for yourself in your own journey.
Oh my God, this time has flown by, and we are just wrapping up the session. I mean, I don't even like I have scratched the surface, but the surface with my questions. But that's okay. I think we got a good bite out of Rina. We have here saying thoroughly enjoyed the live session. Gratitude for Rina's valuable advice and immense thanks. Thank you so much, VM, and for sharing her valuable knowledge. Many thanks. Omama is saying this shows your tolerance, skills to accept others and their different perspectives. I have Sandy Richardson. Where is Sandy? I think I saw her pass by. Anyway, thank you so much, everyone. I hope I haven't missed any questions or anything. Thank you so much, Rina, for being my guest. I never have enough of these conversations and discussions about culture and language. You reminded me long ago, my first master's degree was on language and culture. And oh my God. But Rina, one final, if you have to because we know, for example, having a great attitude or developing certain skills, it can never, this behavior of being a problem solver, or the behavior or exhibiting the behavior of having a great attitude or being a problem solver, or we can never exhibit a behavior until, of course, we've become it, at an internal level, or at self-image level, or at identity level. We need to embody that thing we want to see reflected in our behavior before we can exhibit it. Otherwise, the change is going to be surface. We can attend skills for the next decade, and then we are so happy with it. But it's a surface level if we do not internalize these things and we don't become a problem solver. We cannot show empathy until we are empathetic. We cannot show problem solving until we become a problem solver and embody the what do you think about this role of self-image and mindset in developing leadership and
It's
communication skills?
I mean, what you have said is just spot on. What I said is intention, but what I actually meant is exactly what you said. It's embodying it, and you need the right people, the right environment. A lot of people, they stopped being, try to become their real selves because the environment they're in doesn't allow them to do so. But I would invite everyone and encourage them to find that place. Never stop from looking into the right environment where they will thrive, where they will be appreciated, where they will uh, develop and become their true selves, and never listen to a boss who will, bash you or, limit you. Go and be with the organization where the culture is a fit, where you enjoy being with your boss, you learn from him, he inspires you, and you get that learning so you can also become an inspiration to others. And this is what I like when we say pay it forward. At the end of the day, why we're doing all of this is for us, to continue the inspiration. And this is, I mean, Dr. Nabila, you are one of my inspirations as well, and I keep on mentioning you offline in my private, sessions with my friends, and my outings, where getting the knowledge and becoming that person. Yes, I want to become like Dr. Nabila. This is something that at the end of the day, we would like to be. Uh, Having your true authentic self, being in the right place, enjoying the work that you're doing, growing and evolving, and teaching others on how to do the same.
Authenticity. Oh my God. We are ending on this note. And this note is my favorite of all times. Being and staying authentic to your true self. Even though the decision may be hard or may be difficult or may sound totally off from a logical perspective, if it resonates, if it feels right, just go ahead and do it. And again, this is very, very, very important in true leadership. Well, time has flown by. Rina, thank you a million
Thank you, Doctor.
times. I enjoyed your company today. I loved our
Likewise.
discussion. And I am so happy and grateful we had this session. Zahra is saying, great session. Thank you for the advice and knowledge. Thank you, Umama. Thank you, EM. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Khalid, Ghaith, everyone. Thank you and have a great, great evening. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. Bye, Doctor. Bye, everyone.
Bye.